Welcome to China Paradigm, a show powered by Dashi Consulting, where we interview seasoned entrepreneurs and experienced managers in China about their business and experience in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Matthieu David, the founder of Dashi Consulting and its podcast China Paradigm. Joining me today is Yoann DELWARDE. You are the co-founder of Infinity Growth, and what you are doing, and that's what you're writing on LinkedIn, and that would be one of the questions I will have, is you are helping B2B companies which need to scale up and sell more with integrity. And the word integrity is something I'd like to know more why you insist on it. You do B2B sales coaching, training, and consulting, and you have been in China for my calculation, at least for 7 years. It may be actually more if you may accumulate some academic experiences. So it's a sizable amount of time you have been in China. You have been working in a company before you were hired and you started your company. And you are also on the side very active by lecturing, mentoring, and something which for me defining you for some time, which is Toastmaster. Very involved in Toastmaster, I feel, among Chinese communities, because Chinese are also very involved in Toastmaster here in Shanghai. Thanks, Yoann, for being with us. I'm very happy to have you here. And so what do you do with your company now, Infinity Growth?
Thank you, Matthieu, for the introduction. Amazing. So actually, at Infinity Growth, we are helping B2B clients, as you mentioned, to get the sales they deserve. So this is really the one-liner, get the sales you deserve. And for the companies, we help them to scale up, as you said, so to grow their sales and also to sell more with integrity. And I think we will come back to the word integrity during this conversation, because I believe that now people want to buy, they don't want to be sold, and they want to buy something that they believe has integrity. So yeah, this is what we do, basically.
Tell us more about what kind of teaching you give to your clients. Do you have products, meaning like specific teaching and it's segmented, or everything is adapted based on what you think they need, or it's both of them?
So that's a very good question. So actually, if I take you as a potential client, so you are the CEO of your company, and I'm sure you want to be a successful CEO, you are already. And if you want to be even more successful, one key ingredient is to have more sales. And one of the problems of this year is that we are in a recession. So you may feel stuck or you may feel pressured. So actually at Infinity Growth, what we do is first, we really understand you because we are previous sales executive. So that's really the key. And why I can say that, because actually we got 90% of our clients by referrals. So we don't just care about numbers, we really care about you. And how we usually do, first we start by getting an assessment of how you do the sales in your company today. Based on this assessment, we build a plan together, and then we execute this plan with passion and with great care and enthusiasm. So usually, if you want to have the rhyme, we say, we meet up, we team up, and we raise our glasses up. So that's how usually I introduce myself. So coming back to your question, how we practically do it, we have a series of methodology and tools, because I believe that sales is a science. And as well, we have the mindset, the behavior, the way to talk, the way to ask, and I think that this is more sales as an art. So that's why it's a mix between methodologies, processes, tools, process really about the sales processes, and also about the mindset and the behavior. So that's how I would maybe put an umbrella under everything we do. And as you said, we already have lectures, we already have courses. So I give classes to Jiaotong or EM Lyon or even Fudan, for example. We also have training with AmCham, for example. So we already have our set. But actually 80% of what we do is really customized, tailor-made, because every client has different challenges. So we look at the sales chain, we identify where could be the weak part, because the sales chain is as strong as the weakest link. And then we work on that with different sprints. The methodology of scaling up, Werner Harnisch, every quarter we have a sprint and we grow.
Are you a member of EO? Are you a member of the ChinaAccelerator of EO? Because Scaling Up is a book which is used a lot by EO Entrepreneur Organization, which is for people listening to us who may not know, which is a big organization in the US with thousands of entrepreneurs, which are mentoring, teaching entrepreneurs on how to scale up precisely. So you have 4 chapters. One is about cash, one is about money, one is about I don't remember actually the 4 of them, but you certainly know them. And it's very, very organized, and to the opposite to what you can listen in podcasts, books, whatever. Success is not random. That I think that's the basis of the thinking, is that success is a methodology. Success is habits, like the Rockefeller habits. They also communicate on. So, are you a member of EO, and do you inspire yourself from this organization?
Actually, this is interesting because why I started this company, the main reason is because of ChinaAccelerator. So I'm extremely grateful for this organization. I have wonderful friends there, and now I'm a mentor since 2018. And actually, they inspired me because my first client was one startup from ChinaAccelerator who basically asked me to charge them because they were loving what I was doing when they received the investment. Voice? Exactly. So okay, I'm very grateful for them.
Have contact. We interviewed them as well in the podcast.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So actually, when I started in ChinaAccelerator, I realized that I was very successful in my previous company. However, if you want to help, because they have a batch of more than 10 startups every 6 months. So if you want to help 10 startups, all in different fields, you better have tools, you better have processes, you better have habits, because it's not about experience sharing anymore. Because they have all different industries, they have all different problems, challenges, size of clients. So you really have to go one level deeper. And since 2 years, I realized that ChinaAccelerator, batch after batch, challenges after challenges, successes after successes, also failures after failures, because we both know startup failure rate is very high, even for ChinaAccelerator. So that's really forced me to find the methodology and tools. And as you mentioned also about EO, actually, I have many clients from EO. I'm not an EO member yet, but I know very well their committee, and actually we are thinking I'm thinking to register in EO this year because they are changing their criteria. Because before, if you want to enter, is $1 million as a revenue, but now they are more flexible. So I'm even thinking to join faster than maybe I was thinking next year, but maybe I will start from this year. And actually, yesterday I had a phone call that was fantastic. Maybe that's why I'm so high today, with Jack Daly. And actually, Jack Daly is one of the sales guru. And I had 30 minutes phone call with him, and he shared with me his experience that when he started his business during the first 3 years, he was spending so much time with EO, YPO, and global CEO because they were, for him, the center of influence. That's where he got most of his lead, most of his clients. And I'm doing the same methodology with American Chamber of Commerce, with ChinaAccelerator, with EO, and soon with other organizations through my partner Crystal, who is in contact also maybe with the businesswoman in China. So yeah, this is definitely a big plus for our business. And this is also where I believe we can find the people who are most coachable, who are really willing to change. And that's really the clients we love to work with.
Thanks. Let's try to be specific. You mentioned tools for B2B sales. Would you mind be more specific about the tools? Are there digital tools? Are there something like Trello or CRM you are using? Or are there tools which are more conceptual that you are using, like a lean canvas or other elements? Would you mind being specific on the tools you may use?
Of course. So before to talk about the tools, I want to talk about the funnel, because maybe for some people in this phone call, that would be a good introduction. So I believe there are 6 steps of the funnel. Actually, Jack Daly mentioned 5, but I believe there is 6. There is one more. So the first one is targeting, when you have to choose who your ideal clients are and who you want to work with. Then is the interaction. How can you communicate with them to understand the needs that they have? And then is the proposition stage. How can you set up the right value proposition? And you mentioned about business model canvas. That is a great framework. Then there is the closing stage, where basically you need to close, you need to sign, you need to shake hands. Then there is a stage of exceeding expectation, where you need to deliver, over-deliver. And then there is the last stage, which is grow, which is about key account, upsell, cross-sell, and renewal, and also referrals. Okay. So for each stage, we have different tools, methodologies, and principles. So if I take an example, for the interaction, consultative selling is the methodology, is the mindset. When you ask questions so that you can dig some client's needs, and then you use the empathy to show you understand them. You use the authority to explain who are the clients you're already working with. So all of that can be framed in a one-page PPT with a graph. And then, of course, needs to be executed. So through the different tools, through a checklist, for example, of question, through a recording with the CRM, customer relationship management system. Again, the tools for me, they are not the most important, because when the people use the tool and they don't know why, they don't use the tool well. So first, we focus on the why. We make role play, because actually role play is a key for us. It's like if you are a teacher and you have a competition and you send your students or you send your sport team to the match. Of course, they will lose if they don't train before, right? This is the same for salespeople. So it's not only about the process itself, it's really about the ecosystem that you can build around at each step of the funnel. Is that helping you to visualize more?
Yeah, 6 steps, very clear. And we talk about B2B, so it's very clear that those steps are very identified. Talking about how you support this training and this transformation, do you interact with them with an initial understanding of who they are, what they do, and their challenges? But then, how do you work on the transformation with them? At which every step you are going to organize a workshop every week, every month? Is it? Could you give us a bit more an idea of? So we can project ourselves in how you interact with the companies you are coaching, mentoring, and supporting.
Okay. I believe in the 3 F. So the first F is focus, second one is fun, and the third is follow-up. So focus means actually every week we have a clear focus, and I usually spend 1 or 2 hours coaching with the sales executive. So actually at the beginning of every quarter, we have a plan for 3 months, and then every week we have something specific following this plan, and also we have some time to answer to their challenges. So that's usually how we do. We have the coaching, and then if we see that the whole team needs something very specific, we set up like 1 day training or 2 days training. So this is a mix between coaching and training. However, for most of the time, what I realize is that people don't need theoretical knowledge. They need advice, and they need to reflect, and they need to ask questions because they don't know who to ask. So that's 80% of what we do is based on that. It's really practical. So they have a closing, how to close. They are talking to this client that they are in industry they have never approached before, how to do it. They are trying to expand into a clients. They have so many countries, so many business units, where to start. So that is really practical.
When they have questions, that's something I'm always wondering. When we have a question from our clients from our Dash Consulting, we are going to do research. We are going to collect data. We're going to interview people. When your clients have questions, you are talking about one specific topic. Dash is covering a lot of topics, so we have to update ourselves and so on. You're covering one topic. Does it require you actually to dig in the industry to go further, or basically you have most of the concept in mind, so you are able to answer them immediately? Or does it require you to take 1 day at home to work on your training, to go back 1 week later with answers and on the question they may have raised?
So in sales coaching, there are 2 keywords. The first one is sales. That's my passion. The second one is coaching. And actually the spirit of coaching is we believe that the coachee, so the person that I am coaching or we are coaching, has the answer already. So the key is not about the answer that I can give. It's about the question I can ask to make them realize what they know and what they don't know. And then how can we ask questions so that we can know what they don't know? And most of the time in sales, this is not about them. This is about what the client wants. What is their needs, their motivation, their political agenda, their objectives. Once we know that, the sales is very easy. Because I believe sales is a transfer of trust. So my goal with the salespeople is how can they build trust with their clients, and how can I give them the confidence to ask the question in a proper way. So that's really a lot about changing the way they act with the client. And of course, sometimes I have to go back to make some research, but most of the time, no need, because first of all, it's urgent. They need a reply right now. And second of all, it's most of the time based on the behavior rather than the theory. They already know. It's just they don't execute it in the proper way. Or sometimes they forget, or sometimes they have the stress of all the things going around and they don't take time to focus on one thing. So that's what I'm helping them to do. What we are helping them to do.
I see. You said that sales is a science, and then you said a bit later it's an art. The word of Peter Drucker saying that entrepreneurship is neither science, neither an art, it's a practice. If we look at the word science, art, and practice, how do you articulate them? Because you use 2 of them. And I believe practice is not to overlook neither in sales. So how do you feel about those three? If it's a science, then it can be taught at university, it can be lectured, and after a good lecture and good exercise, you're done. You know how to do. If it's an art, then it needs a talent, and not everyone can do it. Science, everyone can learn, right? With some time and investment. If it's a practice, then it requires time. You have no choice. You just have to spend time. So how do you articulate those three?
Actually, I use those two words because they are opposite. And now it's true that if you bring practice, it's like a triangle. And it makes me think of the rhetoric triangle from Aristotle with credibility, logic, emotion. That's the same for me. Each piece needs to be combined with each other. And if you only have one, you will be just okay sales. If you have two, you will be a good sales. If you have three, you will be the great sales. So this is what I believe about those three. And if I make an example, starting with practice, when I don't practice sales, I lose my sales ability. It's like when you don't work out for 2 months, your body just kind of forget. Of course, it's easier to keep up if you were a previous athlete or you were used to make sport every day, but you still lose your physical abilities. And it's the same in sales. If you don't close every week, you lose your ability to close. Or if you don't make phone call every day, you lose your ability to make phone call. It's like public speaking, basically. I gave 500 speeches in the last 5 years, and I can feel it. I'm not as good as before because I don't speak as much as before. That's it. Simple. The second one is about the art. Why is it an art? Because you can really see who are the most successful salespeople. Actually, they are usually not the one with the highest IQ. They are the one with the highest EQ. So they are really the one that can adapt to the environment, that can adapt to the person they are facing, make them feel good. Make them want to hear what they want to hear and help them, support them in a way. But at the same time, if you are just an artist, but you don't have the science, you don't have the processes, how can you build a team? How can you scale up? How can you, because that's one of the challenges of the great sales who are founder. They sell a lot, and then when they recruit their team, they don't know how to share the knowledge. So actually, for me, the three are really interdependent, and this is a triangle. And if you have a triangle, you are extremely strong. So what we do is we are trying to understand for each part what each client could develop, because everyone has already their strengths, so that they can really become more systematic, and then they can scale up and they can really build something that is sustainable.
You just anticipated one of the questions I had is what are the main failures, mistakes that you see among the people you are coaching? And one of them you just mentioned, the founder can be good at sales. He's good at many things, but he has to be good at sales. Otherwise, his business will not take off. So he's good at sales, and he doesn't know how to get more salespeople. And I have seen that. I've seen that a lot. It's a struggle to actually get people to sell something they are able to sell. That's one mistake or difficulties you are seeing. What other difficulties are you seeing in B2B sales around you?
So if I make categories, as you said, from 0 to 1, then I would say from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1 billion. Okay, I have those 4 categories in mind. From 0 to 1, this is about the founder. And as you said, if the founder is not able to sell, his company will never grow. Or if you don't have a co-founder or someone in the team that is good to sell. So that's very clear. And all the startups that fail, for me, most of them is because they don't have a right sales mindset. They think about their product, they think about the features, but they don't think about the benefits, if I could summarize. So that's really the most important challenge for me in this part. From 1 to 10, it's about training, coaching the 3 to 10 salespeople that can help you to sell more than only yourself. So it's really about giving your knowledge, because if you are in a small company, you need really to explain how you did in the past. And then if you want to go from 10 to 100, is about the department. So it's more about the culture. I'm thinking, for example, about the incentives, about the rules. How can you make them collaborate, not compete? And then if you go from 100 to 1 billion, it's more about the strategy. So it's more about the vision, really the direction. I'm not saying that the vision direction is not important from 0 to 1. Of course it is. But I believe it's less important if you have to make the priority. So I think depending on different stage, you have different challenges, different failure. And that's actually why I think some companies have some bottleneck in the kind of number of employees. And I think in scaling up, we both read the book is talking about it, because there is something to do and they don't really know why, they don't really know what, and they need some external point of view to help them to go to the next stage.
We talked about it already. You say that you are helping B2B sales to, let's see the right formulation, when you need to scale up and sell more with integrity. Why do you feel that it was important to mention you with integrity? When we think about salespeople, we think about aggressive people. We think about people who are going to make big money, to sell as much as possible. Integrity is a basis, but it's not seen as something as a tagline. It's more to have hypergrowth. I mean, people would say, "I help you to reach hypergrowth." Hypergrowth, I don't know how to say, but and you say integrity. Would you mind sharing with us why you use integrity?
Actually, that's interesting because I come from a very modest family background, and I'm the first one actually who got the high degree diploma. I'm the first one who got engineering diploma, and I'm the first one who is starting a business. So in my family, the culture is not really about entrepreneurship, and I have to say that I had some challenges to start with sales. Because I was like you, I was thinking basically sales are not really honest people. They are just trying to take benefit or take advantage of you. But the thing when I realized is that actually we can really build a high level of trust when you are not selling, when you are helping. And here I have a clear example in my career, actually countless example where I told to my potential client, listen, I don't think I'm the right one for you. I know someone else that could do better for cheaper price. That's what I can do. And doing so, I got so many more customers because this one was trusting me and he was seeing me as a trusted advisor. And then he was referring me to the people who would really need me eventually. So that's when I started to realize that integrity, honesty can play a very big role. And in all the sales guru, I would say, or all the sales that are really successful entrepreneurs, they all have this mindset. They are not trying to cheat people. They have higher value behind them. And why integrity right now is very important for our business, because actually my co-founder is involved in many sustainability projects. She's doing pledging, she's helping people in need, in education, etc. And we discussed a lot and we realized that actually we can help so many companies. So why not choosing? Why not choosing the one that really have higher value, that really take care of their employees, that want to have a positive impact on the society, on the environment? Because if we help them, I know it's a small contribution, I know it may be a dream, but in the book that we are writing, if we take example about those nice companies, then we can inspire more people to believe that actually they can do something great. And it's not because they make money that they are doing something wrong. So that's the mindset behind, and that's why we are so passionate about this keyword. And we are practically doing it. So actually just yesterday I was with a client and he was telling me maybe I should fire a sales guy. And I asked him this question. I said, okay, have you tried your best with this sales guy or not yet? And he paused for 5 seconds and he said, it's true, I didn't try. And I said, why don't you try? So that's an example. That's how we practically do it every day.
Yeah, I remember I was part of EO for some time, and I remember that one of the coach said, for the values you choose values which really resonate with who you are. And he took the example of Iron. I don't know if you remember, at the end of 1990s, the beginning of 2000, before the crisis of 2001, this company, one of the value was integrity. And they cheated investors. They cheated their accounts, their accounting, and so on. So they could have said, my value is growth, whatever it takes. That could have been a value in line with actually in some way cheating their investors, because it's growing whatever it takes. But they use integrity, which was not resonate good not adequate actually. So you are also so you're talking about B2B, but you're also talking about digital because you do a training on LinkedIn on how to increase your B2B sales. Would you mind sharing with us if what the learnings you have to use LinkedIn in B2B? That's my first question. And second question is about China. Is LinkedIn and digital a way to sell in China? In the past interviews we got, the learning we got from the past interviews is that Baidu is a good channel for B2B. It's not a good channel for B2C in China. LinkedIn is a good channel for B2B all over the world, but in China, still not all the professionals are on LinkedIn. You may not find all the contacts on LinkedIn. So would you mind sharing more about LinkedIn and digital in China?
That's actually a great question. And I just want to make a small remark. I use LinkedIn a lot. I'm advising my clients to use LinkedIn a lot related to the stage targeting. When they want to get some people in the organization that they are targeting and then interacting. However, once you interact, then for me, it's the B2B sales, and LinkedIn actually is not so useful. So this is how I use LinkedIn, because in sales, to have the leads, usually you have four ways. The first one is through SEO. We mentioned it, Baidu, when the people, they type keyword. Second one is inbound marketing with copywriters and marketing agencies. The third one is outbound, where you send a lot of emails. And the fourth one is targeting, where you are more precise. So I use LinkedIn for the targeting part. So just to make it clear, the content marketing one, there are people who would advise you much better than what I do. So I prefer to stay in my circle of expertise. And actually, what I realized with LinkedIn is that, as you said, not everyone is there. However, in most of the companies now, there is at least 5 to 10 people, at least in the biggest company. And actually, when you interact with them, where you really take the time to listen to them, they can then introduce you. Because you have two ways, you have bottom up or top down. On LinkedIn, it's very easy to do bottom up. Then for the top down, what I realized in China is that there are many, what we call center of influence. And those center of influence, they are connected through the whole industry. So you are one of the center of influence because you have interviewed more than 100 people already, entrepreneurs. So for someone that is willing to have access to this circle, if he or she would contact you and would make a good level of trust with you, you could probably introduce him or her to those network. In China, is working a lot like that, because in every industry you have some I would say key opinion leader who can really connect you. And this is actually what I realized was really helpful for most of my clients, to help them to detect who could be those center of influence that are not competing with their business, because of course if you are a competitor it doesn't work. And then how together you can create a partnership so that you support each other and you create an ecosystem where you can actually really support the people who are your clients. Because think about it, if you have a clients who, if you have a clients who want to improve their sales, now you interview me, you can refer me. And if I'm meeting a client that would need your service or would love to do a podcast, I would introduce you as well. So this is, I think, the way it could really work in B2B.
On a more technical side of using LinkedIn, what you are mentioning is that if you create your own if you create your own connections on LinkedIn, then you will do the hashtags, the ad of those people to mention them on your post. So actually you will gain visibility within their feed and within the people they are connected with. And you will give them visibility as well to the people you are connected with in your feed. And you also give strength to the algorithm of LinkedIn because you are doing at their name. That's why you are mentioning by partnering, because the word partnering, to partner with someone, is so much overused that sometimes we don't really know what it means. And in this case, you are meaning that you are mentioning, you are mentioning liking, you are mentioning sharing and commenting on those people you are actually trusting.
Exactly, that's a very good example. And that's something that we are doing a lot recently, especially this year, because now most of the people are at home and they are watching LinkedIn much more. So I think it's also about creating content. But on this part, again, I'm not the expert. And as you said, to interact with the people through the like, commenting, adding them, trying to create some value together. And again, this is not a sales approach. This is more conversational approach, where you try to build the trust, you know each other. And that person may not be your direct clients, but one of the network could be, as you said.
On LinkedIn, when you contact someone, it's an email. Basically, it's there is a mailbox on LinkedIn, and you send an email. I found out over time that a good email can be very powerful. A good email, I have some theory on it. I have some thinking on it. But I'm pretty sure you thought a lot about it and you have a lot of practice in it. What would be some of the key elements to remember when you write an email? Would you mind sharing? I have some tips for myself, but I'm certainly not as organized as you are, as a conceptual as you are. What would you advise people to do?
That's a question that all my clients ask. So now I have a very standard reply. I use the triangle of Aristotle: credibility, logic, emotion. So I always start with credibility. So first of all, I start with the fact that actually people love stories and people love when we are talking about them. So I always start from them. So I would say, "Hi, Matthieu, I saw that you are a CEO at Dash Consulting. So you know that I know about you. I'm not just randomly writing 1,000 email, right?" And then I will mention the credibility. So who am I already working that you know, or who could give me the authority so that you want to reply to me? And in this case, if I say, "I know that you are doing a lot of podcasts, and I saw that you interview Sophie from ChinaAccelerator, which I found she's amazing, and I love your podcast," credibility is there. So you know that I know Sophie, and since you interview Sophie, you believe, this guy could be interesting, right? So you would have more interest to look at my profile. And then the last one is about the logic. So is to give them a clear next action. So, and the next action could be, how about we have a 5-minute discussion so we can know more about each other? I would love to share more stories with you and to see what we can do together. I wish you a wonderful day. And that's it, 5 lines. And you would probably reply. I'm sure you would reply. So again, that's simple.
My experience is that I'm very careful on emails, and within the team, I try to also have a high standard, because indeed you receive very bad emails sometimes you don't want to answer, and a good email which is adapted can make a difference. I would add one thing as a comment, is that I saw some bad experience mentioning people we don't know, or mentioning people we know, but we don't know the relationship with this person. I know it was not by email, but it was by speaking. I mentioned, "Oh, you know this one, I know him," and actually they hated each other. And so it was not a very, very good mention. And I realized that I had to stop to say that we know someone in common. So that could be, there is a bit of risk, I feel, in mentioning someone in common we know.
So actually, that's why usually I mention companies. In your case, I wanted to be adapted for the people who listen to the podcast. So I mentioned someone that was in a podcast that I know, and she also knows me. But usually I mention companies, because companies, as you said, you cannot hate a company, right? If you hate a company, you need to explain me how you can hate a company. So I usually mention the company, but the key there is about the credibility. Why they should listen to you? Because you are helping someone. You are helping a company that is similar to them, so they want to know more about you.
Talking about the concept, the knowledge you got, you mentioned one book which is Scaling Up, or Scale Up. The title, I'm not very sure. Then what other books would you recommend for people, specifically on sales, on learning about sales, B2B sales, if we can even narrow to B2B?
So actually, I have a list of 15 books that I could send you later on. Because it's also a very regular question that I often get. I have to say that I have read many sales books. Actually, I have a belief. I don't choose book choose me. So when I go to a library, I look at all those titles, and based on my challenge, I always have 1 or 2 that I like. I open them, I go through the agenda, table of contents. If there is one thing I like, I open it, I read it quickly. If I like it, I buy it. So that's how usually I do.
Interesting. So you go to a bookstore to find books you don't even know. You wouldn't go online to check what people say and so on. You would go to a bookstore and look at the title, and then go inside to see what's inside.
Exactly. And also, every time there is someone that I trust to read a book that like it, I explain him what he learned, and if I like it, I'll go online and just buy it. So I have those 2 ways to buy a book. My library is full. I think I need 100 years to finish all the book, but that's okay, because I know if one day I just go to the library, as I have a very big library, I know if one day I need something, I can find it in the book. So that gives me a lot of feeling of enthusiasm. And I also bring book with me. So for example, I have a book that I'm reading actually every day, which is called The Sales Playbook by Jack Daly, the person that I had the chance to talk with yesterday. For me, that's my new Bible. There was a life before I made this book, and there is a life after I made this book. This book is gold, because most of the time sales books are full of stories, which are amazing because you remember stories, but there is nothing conceptual behind. Actually, scaling up is a little bit different. For me, that's already very structured. Sales Playbook is even more structured. So I really like it because when I have a challenge, I go back and I also have some videos from him, and he make me reflect. So that's really the book I would suggest, and I will send you the 15 books that you can also refer to.
Last question before we go to the usual question I ask at the end of the interview, and you already answered some of them. It's about Toastmaster. You have been involved with Toastmaster for a long time. Chinese people are very involved into Toastmaster. I feel that even more than French people. I'm French, you're French, and you're French, right?
I am.
Yeah. So I'm sure because we speak French in different countries. So we are not that involved in France in Toastmaster. And I feel that Chinese are very involved in it, and you are too. Would you mind mentioning what you got from Toastmaster and what Chinese you feel they get? I'm asking this question, but I have a sense that they are looking for English learning, English classes, some of them, more than actually public speaking learning.
Toastmasters is one of my passion. I discovered it 5 years ago, actually, by chance. Actually, now 6 years ago now. What I got through it, I got confidence to speak in public, because actually public speaking is the biggest fear in the world. People fear speaking in public more than spider or death. Just to let you know how strong is the fear of public speaking.
Sorry to interrupt, but there is an anecdote. Warren Buffett had this was scared about public speaking, and he learned from Dale Carnegie, I think, and he has this diploma in his office. And actually, I think he doesn't show his diploma degree from a very famous university, maybe Wharton, another one. But he's showing Dale Carnegie because it helped him to learn how to speak in public, and that changed his life and changed the business he was to create.
I fully agree. And what I can tell you is that there was a life before Toastmaster and there is a life after Toastmaster. I feel more comfortable to speak in front of 100 people than to speak to you now, because I got used to it. I really got used to it. I got stressed before I talk to you. I say, oh my God, what's Matthieu going to ask me? How can I react? But if I speak in front of 100 people, I feel more natural. I feel it's flowing. It's kind of a new feeling. The thing is, if you can speak to 100 people and 100 potential clients, you save so much time. Because if I have to speak to all the Matthieu in China, I need years. But if we organize a conference, no matter offline or online, and there are hundreds of people listening to my speech, there will be at least one or two that will come to me at the end of the speech to say, I love what you said. I need you. Let's have a talk.
So, to be more specific, what did you learn as Toastmaster? I understand that you get one thing, you get practice. That's clear. You get practice of public speaking. Because for people who don't know Toastmaster, we didn't say what it is, but it is a regular meeting where you give a speech to an audience within your community. Could be university, could be a district. And I don't know how long the speech should be, but after there is some discussion and feedback from the audience on the speech and Q&A, I believe. But you are going to tell us more about it.
So actually, what is the goal of Toastmasters? So it was created more than 90 years ago, and now we have more than 170,000 members across the world in almost every country. And this is an NGO, so new non-government organization, so non-profit organization. And in China, in the district that we have 3 districts, and each district have more or less 10,000 members. So as you said, that's getting more and more trendy. And the goal of Toastmaster is to help people to improve their communication skills and leadership skills. And actually, the leadership skills is something that people don't really know, but that's where I learned the most, because I was leading a team and I was helping, actually in my last project, I was helping 80 people to run projects that had impact on 5,000 people within a year. So this is really a very strong leadership component there. For the communication, as you said, there is 3 steps. The first step is you have the objective of a speech. So what is the goal for you to make this speech? It's not just speak to speak. You have a clear objective. So it could be about vocal variety, it could be about body language, could be about coaching, could be about sales. You have the objective before the speech. Then you do the speech. And after the speech, you get an evaluation that is very constructive, that is also empowering, where they tell you what you have done well and what you can improve. And actually, it's like a step-by-step process, because you start from scratch, and then at the end, you can become a keynote speaker. And we even have some certification for keynote speaker that we are doing at every year in the international conference. That should happen this year in Paris, actually. But due to the situation, maybe we do online. But again, and actually that's one thing also I got from Toastmasters is the network, because in 2017, I was in Canada for the international conference, and I had the great chance to meet Tony Buzan, the inventor of the mind map, the multi-million book seller, one of maybe the top 10 most famous people in the world. He was there. And I had the chance to spend the whole night with him, because we went out with some friends, because I actually happened to know one of my Chinese friends. And so many people like that in Toastmasters, so many people willing to share, and that you can reach out to them and shake their hands, get their book. So that, honestly, I really advise everyone to go there. That's just amazing.
Bill Clinton was a member of Toastmasters, right?
You have so many personalities member of Toastmasters. Okay. Actually, in US, most of the CEO actually they have Toastmasters in their company, first of all. So more than 90% of the Fortune 500, they have a Toastmaster club. So most of the CEOs are extremely encouraging. So I would not be surprised that Bill Clinton was a member. I'm not sure. I have not had the chance to meet him yet. But if I meet him, I will ask him.
I've never met him, but I read about it, and I think he was. So the last question I usually ask, I may not ask all of them because you answered already some of them about the books. One of the one I asked, but now you already answered to it. What do you read? Still reading. What do you read to stay up to date about China? Because you are specifically coaching, mentoring, helping companies in China. So you have your concept, but you need to implement them in China. What do you read to stay up to date?
Can I be very frank with you? I believe that even if I read all the books, as soon as they go out, they are outdated. So what I really do, I talk to people, because I believe that every ordinary people, they have extraordinary stories to tell. I ask them questions. I am a very aggressive listener. When I listen, I really listen. I even mute myself. And when I'm not sure about something, I try to ask 5 to 10 people in my network, okay, I have this challenge. This is what I'm thinking to do. What do you think? Have you had some previous experience in that? How do you think people will react? And if all of them tell me, hey, Yoann, you're going to the wall, I back off. If they are telling me, Yoann, that could be good, but think about that, most of the time, this is something that is helping. So I read a lot. I meditate a lot. I reflect a lot. But also, I talk to people even more. I think that now, again, most of the challenges, you need to ask people how they would react, because they are very complex. In B2B, it's all complex.
Yeah, you begin by saying, can I be honest? But actually, that's certainly a source that many people mention is to I wouldn't say to meet and talk, is to refer from their contact. So it could be WeChat, could be LinkedIn, could be
yes.
Talk. But it seems that a lot of people get information from WeChat, LinkedIn, and so on, which in some way, it's a bit scary when you see the fake news. But we trust for a few people, you can get very good information. But do you have anything you read? I read from the New York Times, SCMP, Saturday Morning Post, to know about what's going on in China. Would you have sources you would like to share?
What I'm trying to do is I'm always trying to have different sources of information. So I like Forbes, for example. I like New York Times also. I read Le Monde. I read also some newspaper from China, even like CGTN also. What I'm always trying to do is to cross the different information, because obviously when you only read one newspaper or one book from one nationality, you are biased. So I'm really trying to see different angle, different perspective. But I have to say that the really good books, they are written in Chinese, which I cannot read yet. So I really rely on my Chinese friend and my Chinese partner. When there is something very trendy in China, I'd rather to ask. I'm thinking, for example, for the Daigo, I'm thinking for the new social selling communities, I'm thinking for Alibaba, etc. I just go ask. Because if I read a book written in English, I lose so much information already because of the translation, because of the author, etc. So I prefer to ask people to read Chinese book.
I feel you are someone who can think a lot about productivity and productivity tools. What productivity tools, I would add an S on it, do you like most?
Actually, I'm trained from GTD, Get Things Done, and I did 2 weekend training. So I really like this methodology by David Allen, and this really helps me to be effective. I don't believe in efficiency. That's actually what I say to most of my clients. If you want to be more efficient, you will get 5 to 10% growth every year, and I don't want to work with you. I want you to be effective. So I want you to get the 50% or 100% growth every year. So it's really about mindset shift. It's not about 5 to 10% saving every day.
Is there a specific tool, softwares you really like? We may use simply sometimes a calendar or notes on iPhone. That's something I use a lot. Would you have some tips to share about softwares, tools?
So actually it's funny because I have a buddy. We are coaching each other every month. He's a German guy, extremely well organized. He has Evernote. Honestly, even the founder of Evernote, I think he has to interview him. He's so amazing. The thing is that it doesn't work for me. So what I work for me is I have a very simple Excel file. I have a pen and a book, and I reflect every week what I have done, what I want to do the next week. I'm a little bit old school in that, but I have seen people, they are using their phone because just to work with them, they have their checklist. For me, I still like pen and paper. But what's really important is about the mindset, and that's what I like about GTD. They say no matter the tool, doesn't matter. What really matter is first you collect, you do a mind sweep, everything in your mind, you write it down. Then you organize into the next action. Then you prioritize, and then you have your yearly plan, your quarterly plan, your monthly plan, your weekly plan, and you just make it happen. So first is actually there are 3 types of work. You plan, you do, and you do something not planned. And I try to decrease the doing something not planned because that's usually urgent, and actually it doesn't really matter. I plan and I do what I plan. And when I do what I plan, I'm present, I'm mindful.
There are 2 questions I asked at the end of the interview, which comes from Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker said, you can assess innovation when you look at a success which was unexpected or failure which was unexpected. So it gives you an idea of what's going on in the market. The example you often use is Carrefour is leaving China, which is unexpected and it's a failure. It shows that e-commerce is taking over the economy. What would you be able to share from your observation of 8 years? So it's 8 years, 7 or 8 years in China. Something, a company, an event, something in society which has been successful or a failure, and you were surprised, and it shows something happening bigger in the society or the economy.
So actually, this is interesting because when you asked me this question, I had the same discussion with my parents last weekend, and actually I told them that China was already advanced, and actually this outbreak, COVID-19, is just a catalyzer that makes China even more advanced. Why do I say that? Because everything that's happening online right now is just amazing. I mean, the fact that you could stay at home when people could not go out and you could still get your food. When I talk with my friend in Europe, they just out of blue, like, wow, how can you do that? And about the robots, about the drones, about actually even the healthcare, how they can protect their people. And again, when I say that is purely when I look at the business, the way they interact, the speed. I'm not talking about the values, because this is something that I think many people are getting emotional about that. I'm really talking about the business. The speed that they have and the vision that they have is tremendous. And I think this is just a catalyzer. I think they are really advanced for many topics. So it's not that I'm surprised. For me, it's not surprise. It's just that I think it's just making fast.
Yeah, in some way we are all more aware now that China has reached a level of development which is, in some aspect, indeed, more advanced than the so-called.
I'm talking about the technology. Yeah, I'm talking about the technology here.
Technology. What about failure? What failure have you witnessed that was a surprise to you and shows that something is going on?
Well, actually, the last one that I saw, because I have one client in F&B, and I heard the news about Luckin Coffee. I was surprised because the way they started, I mean, 3 years ago, you see no Luckin Coffee, right? Now you see Luckin Coffee everywhere. even more than Starbucks. So I was thinking, wow, they must be super successful. And also the way they approach at the beginning, trying to learn from Starbucks, their ideal clients, etc., go to the building, target the best clients, and also to have cheap price. It seems to be working, right? And then when you see the stock dropping and you see the thing behind, you realize, hey, sometimes it looks good, but actually behind is not so good. So that was a good reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, what's even more surprising is that they could have said fake things to so many people and so many investors, and that could have worked its way. I feel that's a failure that we need to learn from. It's to.
But actually, it's more related to the startup community, because I'm in this world and I can clearly see there is a bubble, and there is a bubble, especially in China, that is exploding now. Yes.
Yeah.
That is exploding now. So many startups failed because it was built on nothing. Especially the one that were purely Chinese owned and Chinese invested, especially from grants from the government, which has no business model behind, no sales behind. It's just going to do proof. So I think this is good because it was like internet bubble in the early 2000. I think it's the same now for the startup technological bubble. Only the one that really have something tangible and good business model will survive. All the rest will be out within a year.
Thanks, Yoann, for your time. You took your morning for us, and I really, really appreciate it. Congratulations for all you did. We know each other for sometimes 6 years, I think, because we organized together a forum with SME and big French groups. And actually, when we look at them, some have left, or some have changed, some have grown, and some have left. So this landscape has changed. But thank you very much. Congratulations for all you did. For the foundation of Infinity Growth. It's such a good name, by the way. I don't know how you got it. And I don't know what domain name do you have. I'd like to check that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everyone enjoyed as well the talk. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you very much. And if you want to reach out to me, just add me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to talk to you. Thanks, Matthieu, for the interview. That was perfect.
Email? You want to share your email?
The good thing with LinkedIn is that you can just add me, and then you can see my profile, and then you can write me based on this profile. That's much better.
Okay, at least they know that now that they need to write a good email to you. And
exactly. They can just say they listen to the podcast, and I will add them directly.
Thank you, and for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.